It being 7 o'clock, we're going to call the Clinton Board of Selectmen meeting for November 18th, 2020 to order. The first order of business is public comment. Anyone have public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. Review minutes. We've got minutes for November 4th, 2020. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. We have a common victual license hearing for 360D High Street. Angel Perez doing business as Nonstop Nutrition. Is Mr. Perez here? Please come forward, sir. Yes, please. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Angel Perez, 360 High Street.
And can you just tell us a little bit about what you're trying to do?
So I'm hoping to open a nutritional shake shop right on High Street. Provide a healthier alternative for others. Shake shops are all around the state, so I thought Clinton was the perfect area.
Perfect. This being a public hearing, I'd like to invite anyone who wants to speak in favor of this proposal to come forward. Seeing none, anyone in opposition? We'll close that portion of the hearing. Any questions from the board? What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move we grant the common vic license to Angel Perez, DBA Nonstop Nutrition.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is an application for a common victual license from Deborah Sargent doing business as Burditt Hill General Store to operate a convenience store on the premises located at 363 Main Street in Clinton. Ms. Sargent. Welcome. Can you just state your name and address for the record, please?
Deborah Sargent, 82 Pearl Street, Clinton, Mass.
Thank you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
We want to reopen the Burditt Hill Market,
Great.
do a little deli and convenience store.
Great. This being a public hearing, I'd like to invite anybody who would like to speak in favor of this proposal come forward. Anyone in opposition? I'll close that portion of the hearing. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, what's the pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant the common vic license to Deborah Sargent, DBA Burditt Hill General Store.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 0. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Board of Health.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen. What's the word?
Well, we're going to start off with what our numbers are as of today.
Thank
We've got 457 that tested positive. We're monitoring 47, and we got 410 off. Steve will tell you, we picked up a couple clusters.
So as far as last week's total, we got 42 new cases, which is going to keep us in the red when we test positive next week. We're actually going to trend up and probably be in the 30 percentile over that. So it's not slowing down. We've got 15 so far this week. We're still getting quite a few calls, quite a few cases. As far as what we got going on now, as you know, we had to close the Clinton Bar and Grill. They had a couple of staff members test positive. So with that, it became a cluster. We've got the state involved doing some contact tracing for us with the customers. We've reached out and we've been looking for tests from all the staff, and we're making them all quarantine. There's a couple other clusters in town. We had the Head Start, and now we've probably got one down at Perkins, and there's a good possibility we got a fourth one all in a week. So it's definitely not slowing down. I think we're done yet.
What can we do to help?
Well, we're probably going to need some help with another nurse. I had mentioned that to you last week. There's no way she can keep up with this. Just the Clinton Bar and Grill alone with 30 plus employees, and 180 contacts that had been in there that week when those people were contagious. These other clusters, I don't know. We'll know more tomorrow when she comes in. So she's been working 7 days a week. She's working from home on Tuesday and Wednesday, and she's working on the weekends. So we're going to try and we'll try to do, and we wanted to bring it to your attention. We'll try and get some help, and just on a temporary basis, maybe get someone 20 hours a week and run it through the end of the year and see how that goes. And the money that you provided us earlier in the year, we'll use that until it runs out. You're okay with that?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is it possible to use the school system's head nurse? I think last spring she had offered.
We did use them last week. They're still in school, though. They're back, they've got the special needs, and they've got, I think they're doing temperature checks at the door, so I really don't think they'd be available right now. Maybe at the first of the year if everything shuts down, but for now, we really need someone who's there. We can train them in Maven, and we can get them online, just doing some contact tracing and calling the families who are under quarantine, just to monitor them. That's a good idea.
So you think the funding that we opened up earlier is going to have to get you the first of the year?
Excuse
The
me?
funding?
Oh, the funding, I think it should. We'll go back and take a close look. I don't know what a nurse costs. I know they're high per diem, but I don't know if we can maybe use a nursing student from Fitchburg State to help us out. So that's what we're trying to figure out right now. We're working with Massachusetts Public Health Network. They've got a couple people that they've been using, and I think they're nursing students, so we might be okay there. We'll know more this coming week.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I don't want funding to be an issue that hamstrings you or slows you down. If what we authorized previously isn't enough, we can, I'm sure the CARES Act is still open for new expenditures, and if that's not there, then you have a job to do, and we have an obligation to find a way to pay for it. We can go to the Finance Committee and get a reserve fund transfer. It's an emergency situation, you've got things you got to get done. So I would strongly encourage you, if the board would be supportive, to just do what you got to do, and we'll figure out how to pay for it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the mindset, this isn't a thing where I want to try to save money for the town. I think it's money well spent. We're in a crisis. And, Steve, like when you come to us, you say you need 20 hours. My knee-jerk reaction is like, look, we'll give you 40. And then, you know what I mean? Unless you strongly feel like that's a total waste of resources. But, I mean, I think just to reiterate what the board's saying, whatever you guys need, like, we want to be supportive of you. I almost want to go the conservative route of, like, whatever you think you need, I want to provide you that plus like an extra, like 30% just in case, because I think you're doing your best job trying to figure out the way things are going to be going. And if things take a really bad turn, I'd rather we have those, additional hours available for you guys in a jam, so like you don't feel like you have to come back to the next selectmen's meeting to ask for more funds or anything like that. So, yeah, I'm absolutely in favor of the 20 hours, and I'd leave it up to the Board of Health. It's your call. If you think 20 hours is adequate, but I would have no problem. I don't think anyone else on the board would either, authorizing more than 20 hours per week right now, because the next couple of months is really make or break time for this whole pandemic. Okay.
To be clear, these guys are battle-worn, but the numbers that we're seeing are staggering. It's almost tripled in 3 weeks, I think. It just keeps going up and up and up. And with the holidays coming, despite our best efforts to encourage people to try and get through the next few months smart and safe, I'm just afraid it's going to keep going. So, do what you have to do.
All right.
Can I circle back to Clinton's for a second? How far along you guys as far as contact tracing on that? Do we know how big of exposure we could be up against?
So we know it was 2 wait staff tested positive. They didn't think they thought they had a head cold, and they probably stayed at work a little longer than they should have. So that's the problem. They were contagious for about 5 days of work, and it's over 200 people, 200 contacts, and whoever they were with. So we're still sorting it out.
Were there any problems with contact tracing? Like, did they get you a list or
They
things you
they
needed?
did get us a list.
All right.
Yeah, they did get us a list.
Okay.
So they're cooperating, they're definitely cooperating. You know, they could do a little better job of what they're doing.
Okay.
But we'll see to it that they do. We gave them a letter,
Yep.
let them know what we're asking for. So we're asking for all the employee lists, everyone has to be tested, place has to be professionally cleaned, sanitized. So we're waiting on all this. We're not gonna do anything until then. They could be closed to the 28th.
Yep.
That's what the nurse is recommending right now. Make the whole staff quarantine for 14 days. So that's what it looks like today. We won't know until we get through all the information and make all the calls.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I hate to beat a dead horse here, but, I mean, was there something missing in the training down there? I mean, if you're in the service industry, especially if you're a waitress, if you sneeze, you should consider going home the way things are going right now. I mean, we're sitting here at this month into this pandemic, and there was a wait staff that had a head cold and tried to just tough it out at work. I mean, there's something lacking in the basic training of the staff down there. I honestly can't believe what I just heard. It blows my mind.
I agree. It's pretty clear in the governor's orders. If you feel sick, you don't come to work. It's plain and simple.
If you feel sick, you don't come to work if you're working in a cubicle. Never mind if you're a waitress working at a restaurant. I mean, or waiter. I don't know what the specifics of the case was, but that I can't even believe that.
You know, this day and age, we're 8 months into this. It's pretty common sense. It's one of the most important rules of opening a restaurant. I mean, that was in place before COVID. If you feel sick, you don't go to work. I mean, it's pretty simple, but we'll figure it out. We'll get through it. You know, this is the second time they've had people working that were sick. That's 2 strikes. Pretty hefty fine being closed for 2 weeks when you really sit down and think about it. You know, I feel bad about the staff not being able to work for 2 weeks right before Thanksgiving. You know, that's a tip industry. I mean, they're going without pay. No fault of theirs, a lot of them. So hopefully they'll do the right thing by their staff. But yeah, we'll be back there. We'll be back before they open. We'll sort through everything. The nurse will be in tomorrow. That's one of the first things we're going to look at is the clusters. And figure out where we stand and go from there.
Yeah. Keep us posted. And Thanksgiving's coming, and nobody wants to hear this news, but it's all over the place. I mean, it's been shown that indoor gatherings outside your immediate family are prime ground for this thing spreading. So in any case where it's possible, you know, please consider sitting this one out. It seems like there's good news on the vaccine front, and if we can get through this winter, you know, hopefully it's going to be a brighter spring, but the numbers are not looking good right now. And Canada did their Thanksgiving a month before us, and it exploded after that. So just be careful, be safe, do the smart thing. Anything else from the board?
Just one last question, Mr. Chair. Is there any trends or anything that you're seeing locally in Clinton? Are most of the outbreaks, are they tied to small social gatherings? Is there any kind of common denominator in any of the cases, or is it mostly a kind of a mishmash of different cases?
It's all over the place. I think
Okay.
A lot of it's being transmitted through households.
Yeah.
There's no one thing staring us.
Okay.
This is where it's all coming from. There's no way to put your finger on it. It's everywhere. Yeah, certainly getting a lot of calls, a lot of questions. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times, you have 4 or 5 people in a house, usually all of them get it, especially if you're in there for 2 weeks together. So, that's what we're seeing a lot of, the second and third member of the family getting it, so.
Anything else from the board? Keep up the good work, guys. If you need anything, just let us know, all right?
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for everything you've been doing.
Next up, Ed, do you want to introduce this one? Our new Human Resources Manager is here.
Yes, this is outstanding.
We've been waiting a
Yeah.
long time for this.
No, yeah, I know. I don't want to take your thunder, please. This is great.
Really,
Hello.
really good to see you. Welcome to Clinton. You want to just pull the mic so people can see or hear you? We just wanted to, this has been a long time coming, and we're really excited to have you here, so we just want to give you a couple minutes. You just want to say hi and tell us how things are going, or what you're looking to get knocked out first, or...
Perfect. Well, so thank you very much for selecting me. I'm looking forward to this adventure here in Clinton. So far, I've been here for a week and a few days, and it's been a very warm welcoming from everybody. I've met with the senior center so far, the library, and of course my bosses. And some of the big takeaways, I'm going to be a file audit, make sure that we all have one source of, area. Everything is organized, complete. So if there's ever an audit, we're compliant. Training is a big one that I've heard from some staff that they really would like to focus on that. An employee manual or handbook, and then some fundamental trainings that can go with that. And, take it day by day, just, kind of see what is needed and, not put too much on the plate so that we can give it a full attention right away. Yeah. But can I just jump in on the whole Board of Health situation that was just happening? I think that they should, they're not here, but I think that they should really interview the staff to find out if they're being denied leave of absence that they're entitled to have, and that's potentially why they're coming to work and exposing people. If we start diving into that, potentially we could cut that curve a little bit. Just my 2 cents on that. Some people might not be aware that they're entitled to it, especially being hourly workers, but they are. So
It's a tough
really,
business.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board or anything?
Nope.
We really appreciate you coming in.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much.
And welcome to Clinton.
If there's anything we do, just let us know.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Looking forward to it.
Good night. Next up is Walnut Street resident Allison Mack, here to discuss the Walnut Street Improvement Project. Welcome. Can you just state your name and address for the record, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, the rest of the Select Board. Allison Mack, 76 Walnut.
What can we do for you?
So I'm here to talk about the Walnut Street Improvement Plan and what occurred to my residents. Overall, thank you. The project itself looks great. Unfortunately, there were issues with the grading level in front of my residence and how it relates to the 100-year-old granite wall. The undermining of the wall was exposed for months, causing a shift in the existing crack. The wall continued to shift after provisions were made to fix the undermining of the wall. There was an unappealing concrete job done to secure the new granite to the old granite wall. The town has gone back to fix that issue, but my concern is going forward that it will not be a long-term fix. I would like it on record that the town is and should be responsible for any issues relating to the work that was done to the wall. I've personally felt as though I've been brushed off and ignored about this for over a year now, and I'm hoping to get a clear answer from the board.
Okay, well,
I have pictures here as well that I will leave for notes in the meeting of when we purchased the house, what the wall looked like during the construction, after the construction, when it started to shift, movements from that, discussions with Mr. Ward, as well as reaching out to, I have recorded conversations with Phil Duffy and Chris McGowan where they met in front of my house and agreed that the wall did shift due to the construction. So I just have been reaching out for about over a year to try to get someone to respond to me, and until I put in a public records request, I didn't feel as though anybody was actually kind of addressing the issue.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. So the issue has not been addressed?
The issue was fixed, however, when I request to get something in writing, no one will respond to say that, yes, this issue is because of the grading level that occurred due from the Walnut Street Improvement Plan, and that, I mean, the wall's been there for 100 years and has not had any issues with it. And within 2 months of the grading level happening, the wall started to move and the crack was exposed and I could fit my hand in the crack. So
But just so I understand, the crack has been
The
fixed.
crack has been fixed about a month ago. They came in and moved it back, but my concern is that's an easy fix. I have talked to mason workers as well as a couple construction people in town who had advised me to come before the board and try to get something in writing because they said over time this will not hold.
Do you have an engineer's report that says it's unsatisfactory? Are you saying it's an unsatisfactory repair?
Yes. I mean, the repair itself, I just think it's a short-term fix. My concern is that over time, it's going to keep progressing and getting worse. You can see in these photos here, the height, the depth of the wall, once it was for the past 100 years. And there was an issue in front of the house where Mr. McGowan told me that the grading level was much lower, and they lowered that portion of the street much lower than what was planned. And so the wall that they put up to support it was not originally in the plans, and since then we have had issues.
Allison, I'm just trying to understand clearly. Your concern isn't with the condition of the wall today. The repairs that have been made have corrected the problem today. Your concern is going forward.
Pretty
What?
much. I mean, the repair happened a month ago, so like last year when it was exposed, they left it exposed for months over the winter where the ground level expands. We all know that. So I'm just concerned that anything happens moving forward, like this winter, that it's just going to keep progressing and getting worse. And then as a resident, I'm going to be responsible for this. And I don't feel as though I should be, since everything was fine prior to the Walnut Street Improvement Plan occurring.
So, Mr. Chair, so just so I understand, so by having something in writing, then that you're looking for, if you ever need to take recourse, that documentation supports.
Yes, that there were no issues with this wall until the Walnut Street Improvement Plan occurred. And then since that time, issues started occurring, which I can document.
So the repair that's there now, if that repair fails, recourse to come back to the town, is that what you're?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for the board. I don't know if we'll settle this now, tonight. I think I'm somewhat familiar with it, and I do remember discussing with you to get the initial error or crack or whatever repaired. I understand your concern that if it is if it's, in your opinion, a short-term fix that could 5, 10, 15 years down the line lead to the wall shifting or the crack reappearing or something like that. I think what you're looking for is some assurances from the town that it would get dealt with, because the root cause of it in the first place was the construction on the road. Yeah, I don't know if this is anything that's going to get resolved tonight. It might be worth, because I know Allison's had some people look at it. It might be worth trying to get some type of a subject matter expert to take a look at the wall. Like Selectman Conley mentioned, he asked if there was like a professional engineer that had looked at the wall. I'm sure the masons that look at it are pretty knowledgeable, but I don't know if we want to consider having a subject matter expert take a look at it and give their opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to talk to the DPW superintendent. I went over there today just to see, and I wasn't sure exactly what the problem was, so
I mean, it's an old wall. You could, obviously,
Right.
It's been there for 100 years. It's just, from the point of the construction, the wall started to shift. And after it was addressed, I was still told that due to the grading level that the town did, which was lower than what was originally planned, with pretty much like gravity, it's going to just keep pushing it over. So even the crack area is not my full concern. It's the wall and the grading level that was done, which I know can't be changed due to the plan, but I'm just nervous that moving forward, more damage is going to occur to my wall, because within 2 months, that crack grew bigger. And it just could continue to happen.
Mr. Chair, can I ask
Yes.
one more question? Have you thought of, you don't have to answer right now, but if we do come to some sort of an agreement, is there a time period that you would, because obviously we can't have it be like forever, you know, like 80 years from now, something happens, you know what I mean? So have you given any thought to like 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, like what?
I mean, I haven't really given a thought to
Okay.
that, or, like, I
That's okay.
know over time things occur.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it was just within 2 months after this happening.
Sure.
Things started to change. So, I mean, after this winter, I can see what happens if anything moves from there and have someone come out and look at the wall, or if you want to talk to Mr. McGowan, that's fine. It's more so just, like, to me, it's like, the wall hasn't moved in 100 years, so like, after this, it's like, what, all of a sudden, it's allowed to move in 10, it's allowed
Right.
to move in 15, like, it's
Right.
a massive granite wall that shouldn't even move, but due to the grading level that was done in front of the house, I'm pretty much told that it's going to move at some point.
Mr. Chair, the only thing, we can discuss this further, but the only thing that I would recommend is, and I have no problem with our DPW taking another look at it, but it might make sense if we do have some sort of a investigation into it to have that entity be independent of the town. Because I think, I trust all the guys of the town, but, you know, it's just what, you know, you don't want to have the people investigating it also be the ones that might be, not defensive, but like if, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I think it might make sense to whoever is doing the investigation be some type of a separate, independent entity.
Right, I just wanted to get Chris's side of the story before we...
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
I want to make sure I know everything.
Yeah, no, I mean, it just makes me nervous when I have reached out to people, asking them, can you just put it in writing that this crack, this wall occurred, blah, blah, blah. No one will put anything in writing. And I understand why, like, went to school for human resources, you write things down to keep track of stuff, like, I get that, but it's nerve-wracking when no one will put anything in writing, or no one responds, and you have to put a public records request in to get answers.
Well, I'm sorry about that for sure, but I'm glad you're here, and hopefully we can come to some sort of resolution.
Yep.
Board of any...
Just one thing to add, by virtue of being here, your statements are in the official record of the
Yep.
Board of Selectmen, so there is documentation of your concerns, and if 20 years from now something occurs, you can always go back to that.
The meeting minutes and everything, yep.
That where you it's on record, but it's really difficult to promise to fix something that's not broken. Right now, it's satisfactory, according to you. I understand your concern is, will it stay that way? I certainly think we should give it a little bit of time and acknowledge in our minutes that you raised the concern.
Yep.
So that going forward, if there's a continuing problem, where the town will take corrective action. But we can't do anything without talking to the Superintendent of Public Works. And I really think we're talking about something that maybe might happen by from the advice you've gotten is from non-professional advisors. Anybody can point at something and say, someday that building's going to fall down. You know what I mean, Allison?
I understand that, but only to a certain extent, just because that the wall's been fine for 100 years. Like, nothing has occurred in 100 years, and within 2 months of this project happening, it started to shift and movement happened. So you can tell by the level of where the wall is on these photos, where the wall to the sidewalk is about this in the beginning. Now the wall to the sidewalk is about this. So it's a drastic difference with especially where my lawn is up top, which is going to continue putting pressure on that wall.
Those types of things, where the grade changes and walls need to be built, happen all the time on every...
You know, it's happening on High Street.
Look at High
right
Street,
now.
exactly. It's part and parcel of rebuilding our infrastructure in town, and sometimes private property is negatively affected either by eminent domain takings or building walls on people's property. But the property owner on High Street, it doesn't have a letter saying that the wall that's being built to retain that embankment is going to last for 5 years, 10 years, 20
But you
years.
rebuilt that wall for them. That's like a brand-new wall you put up.
Yes, it is.
That mine is an existing wall that's been there for 100 years, that there was a wall put in front of it to secure it that I don't believe is going to secure it. So you rebuilt a wall for someone and put a brand-new one in that's going to guarantee a certain amount of time, where I don't believe this makeshift wall that was, not makeshift, I shouldn't say that, but this wall that was put in it is going to do that.
I understand your concern, but it's a belief, not a fact. So I'd like to see the fact. I'd like to see what happens in 6 months after it goes through a winter, just to see if it moves.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, please. One last thing. So really, it's just looking for assurance that being that the project that the town completed is the root of the compromise of the structure. So just assuring that if something does happen down the road, the town will answer the call and look to correct it, right? Is that?
He's covered, it's on record now, so she's
Correct.
covered.
Yeah.
So that's
Well,
the assurance that, yes, it's,
I mean, everything's on record. I have my files as well. It's more so, like, I am frustrated. I'm frustrated that it's been over a year, and I have been reaching out. And I do have a question. In this project for the Walnut Street Improvement Plan, or even High Street, like, where do residents go? Who do they go to? Do they go to the DPW director? Do they go to Phil Duffy, who's the one that pulled the Walnut Street Improvement Plan? Like, I reach out to these individuals, and I'm, oh, this person, who?
Mr. Chair.
The buck does stop here.
Yeah, and Al, I can get you information. I mean, we do have a resource that is supposed to be first contact for all the downtown construction renovations project. That resource may direct you to somebody else, but there should be one. I'll make sure that you get that information. But I do appreciate you here, and yes, you will be on the record, but, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think what you're looking for, like, you know, you're on the record stating what you think is an issue. Like, you're looking for the town to agree with you, if I'm
Pretty much
right. I mean,
address,
it's,
yes, these issues were caused by the Walnut Street Improvement Plan. And
yeah, and I'm not saying that we will or we won't, but I'm saying that just coming here is good and getting it on the record, but I don't think that that totally satisfies what you're looking for. I mean, the only thing that's going to be on the record is that you came here and said that you think you may have a long-term issue with your retaining wall.
Correct.
At this, you've been given no assurances or agreement that that concern is valid, and I think that's what you're ultimately looking for, one way or the other.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't, there's different levels of expertise even on this select board, and I know we have resources in the building committee, but again, I think it would be worth having an independent entity investigate that wall, listen to the complaints, and get back to us and see if there is validity in those long-term issues. And if there is, then we should deal with it. And I think you would agree, if we hire somebody that is a subject matter expert, and they say that the fixes are adequate, and that there should not be any long-term damages in the future, I would think that,
Yep.
you know, you would agree with that as well, right? Okay.
Oh, wait,
That's
it's
just-
it's also when you are approached by individuals in town who are contractors and mason
Yep.
workers, and who tell you this isn't going to hold, that throws up a red flag.
Yep. Different story when you're asking them to put it in writing and put their reputation on the line and sign it.
Yes,
So, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
I know you guys know some of them, so their names won't be brought up, but
Yep.
it's just, that's just how it is.
Mr. Chairman?
yes.
I do want to clarify that the town is a corporation, and we employ subject matter experts. We have them on staff right now. They represent the town, and at the very least we could do is hear from them before we start committing to outside engineers doing analysis, because our engineer can't be counted on or trusted or relied on for proper advice, I take exception to that. So I really think that at the very least, we could have the superintendent of public works give us,
It seems like we've already been down that path.
I haven't heard that path.
Who is
I haven't been
the,
down that path yet, so I'd love to
Chris
go down that
McGowan is
path.
the
I mean-
engineer in town?
Hold on one second. What?
I said it feels like we've already been down that path because we're here now. Obviously,
I haven't heard from Chris, though. So I've heard one side of the story. I just want to make sure I...
oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
Please continue.
Yeah, no. Oh, no, Chris McGowan is the engineer for the town.
Well, he's in charge of the project.
he's in charge of the project and he is an engineer.
Who was, the person in the town who you had look over for the fix? You guys sent someone over there that was not Chris McGowan to look at the wall, and he stated that this isn't going to fix it. He did not.
I'd have to double check that. It wasn't the DPW.
Was not, I don't believe it was the DPW. There was someone else who, my father was a contractor in town who knew him, but I guess it was someone from the town stopped over there and said that he wasn't going to do this work because it's not going to get fixed. That's not how you fix it. I sent you the name in an email, I don't know.
Let's talk to Chris.
Yeah.
And get that side of the story. And then if we have to bring this back at our next meeting or down the road, we'll keep an eye on it. To address your concerns about not hearing back from people, to you and anyone else who's watching, we strive for a higher standard when it comes to public response, but the five of us are elected by people in town to represent you. We might not always get to the same level of satisfaction or solution, but the very least you can do is get a hold of us and have your voice heard. So don't be shy. We're
Oh, no,
here.
I appreciate this very much. Like, thank you for having me. I appreciate your time. I did try to come a few months ago on public comment, but it was more of a discussion, so it was when Mr. Connolly, you were the chair, and you advised me to come, but I just waited a few more months to see what happened to the wall, and it just kept expanding, so decided that it was an issue that needed to be addressed more. So, appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks for bringing this to our...
May I leave these photos
Please.
with someone for...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
There's no administrative business tonight, so we're going to go to old and new business. Sorry.
Not me.
I included the parking study in the packet just so people had, I spoke with Mr. Duffy and actually spoke with Chief Lavager on the enforcement side just to get his thoughts. And as we brought up before, I've spoken with Ed informally about this, and I'd love to have it be something that we look at as something, if we're going to roll out a new downtown, I think we at least owe it to the town to put all the puzzle pieces together. And by including the study, I think it was from 2017, Michael, 2015?
2017.
17? I think a lot of the work's been done in just different areas, and there's been some new developments with the church and other usage. I just think we owe it to the town to bring all the puzzle pieces together, whether that's Oxford Court, schools, the downtown project now, how we're going to handle enforcement if that becomes an issue with the union contract, if we want to take a different approach to that other than uniformed officers, if we want to, that might be a union thing. I just think, as we do sometimes, we look at it one piece at a time instead of how it all blends together. And having a new downtown project, hopefully opening up in less than a year, that would give us a great opportunity to take a step back, look at how everything fits together, and then when we're debuting that new look down there, if there's anything different we're going to do, it's a perfect opportunity to fold that in. So, I know, Ed, you brought this up, so I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I agree with everything you said. I just would like to start sticking some dates
Great.
to some of these, because the study's fine. I've read through portions of the study before, but I mean, we haven't really, it's a good study, and there's a lot of information in there, but, you know, what have we done with the results of that study? So I just want us to start thinking of what we're actually planning and thinking to do, and just start, I don't care if it's 6-month, 12-month tentative deadline for some sort of a report, or maybe it's something where we can meet, you know, every month or so to see kind of where they're at on it. But the only other thing I would say on that is I think that the enforcement portion of this, I think, could be like decoupled a little bit from this and can be figured out in parallel, meaning I don't think we need to wait a year and a half before we can figure out an enforcement strategy for people that, you know what I mean? But some of the other things, I agree with you, we probably will need to wait like a year before we have a agreed idea of how to move forward, or however, 6 months, whatever.
I'm not even sure we have to wait that long. I was just saying, I didn't think we needed to jump on this and try and get something done in a month when no one's
Agreed,
been able to
yeah.
work down there for a while anyway. I was just thinking, when enforcement, I mean, it just seems, everybody I talk to, that's a problem. And if we're going to consider things like I've looked at some downtowns, you know, it's a supply and demand thing. If people are, you know, are that eager to park in front of the Strand or Clinton's Bar and Grill, maybe we charge for those spots and use that money in a revolving fund to pay for snow removal and other improvement things. And, you know, someone like me who doesn't mind walking and parking down behind the item, you know, that gives me a break. So I just think the enforcement part of that is going to become key, especially if we have to if we're not going to use existing forces.
I don't disagree with that. I would say, though, that the low-hanging fruit right now is residents that live on High Street that have parking in other areas aside from actually on the street, are habitually parking in the street in front of businesses for long portions of the day. So all I'm saying is that I think before we start taking a look at parking meters and other things, which may end up, it could end up being the way we want to go, I don't know. But I'm saying I think the first step would be, let's get the cars that are not supposed to be there, that they have their residential parking in a different area. It's a matter of convenience that they're parking where they are, but it's disruptive to the businesses that are in front of those parking spots, but they'd like to have it used for their own customers. So,
I'm supportive of everything the chairman said and everything Ed said. I've been involved in a small part of the parking problem on High Street in Oxford Court for, I don't know, like 5 years. It's been an ongoing battle. Oxford Court, all those spaces in the municipal lot are supposed to be open during the day for business use, and the same for High Street. Residents of Oxford Court are not supposed to be parking on High Street, and they do. And the only way that I personally have been aware of the abuse is during the winter when it snows out. You can drive through the municipal lot in Oxford Court, and there's every single storm, there's 15 to 20 cars. I've called the police department a number of times. They come down and ticket them and deal with it. But that's the only way my only way of seeing the problem. And then through, 60% of the year, it's impossible to observe. It's the same thing in that lot, that Church Street lot, Walnut Street lot. People park there for 3, 4, 5 days. Same vehicles parked, never move. The only time you really notice it is during the winter. And it's the Clinton Savings Bank employees. And I hate to call out a specific business, but I watched someone park 3 days in a row all day right in front of Town Hall on this side, where it's, 15 minutes or 15-minute parking. They pull in at 8 o'clock in the morning, park their car, and go to work. I really think we have to do something about enforcement of the rules that we have in place right now. And and a comprehensive enforcement, not just when one of us calls the police station and says there's a problem. We really need to have someone from the police department come in, and meet with us and hopefully develop a real enforcement plan that we can start doing right now. They have the ability to scan plates. If the address comes up as a resident on High Street, they can ticket them, they can have them towed. It's at least a start. And the abuse of these parking spots here, when people come to town hall to do business, they've got to circle the block 3 times trying to find a spot, because it's all full of all-day long parking by employees that can't use their businesses' lots. So I would really like to pursue immediately developing an enforcement plan for the parking rules and regulations that we have right now. And that the study is a very comprehensive plan, and we should work diligently at implementing it and finding out what kind of resources we can dedicate all day to parking enforcement. But that's a longer-term project. We need a commitment from the police department to work on this problem in the municipal lots and High Street. And I don't want to ask for the board to vote on it tonight, but at our next meeting, I'd like us to consider this problem and consider no overnight parking on High Street, at least through the winter. To A, facilitate snow removal when there is a storm, but B, during construction. I was trying to go to a couple of businesses on High Street, and the whole street was parked with cars. It was 8 o'clock at night. It was residents of Oxford Court parking there, and they were going to stay there all night because they were there in the morning when I drove by in the morning. I'd like to see us consider, given the condition of the construction and winter conditions, that maybe High Street should no overnight parking, even if you said between the hours of 2 and 4 a.m. And that would solve that problem. But we can discuss that in another meeting.
So there's a couple pieces. I completely agree with what's being said. As far as the enforcement, I think that maybe considering an alternative to having to rely on the local police department with enforcement is maybe bringing Oxford Court in about managing their own property, right? Because if their residents are an issue, then they need to help with determining a solution, whether it's they have somebody who's responsible, like a security guard or whatnot, but, for the town to have to take on, policing that, I think that, they're creating.
Matt, we've been fighting with Oxford Court for 5 years now. What they basically did is told all the tenants not to park in the municipal lots.
So I think, it's a tactic to continue to bring them in until it gets resolved, right? If there's an inconvenience factor, what's being asked is not unreasonable, but, there's ownership that they have to take in the matter, and leaning. The other piece is, within that study, it discusses the Chestnut Street property, the old American Legion, being able to fit upwards of 150 parking spaces. And I think that between the local businesses like the Clinton Savings Bank and the Town Hall, to be able to provide them with an area for them to park, where anybody who uses Central Park or has to do business at the Town Hall, there should be adequate spacing. When I was driving up through there the other day, it looks like people are using it as their own storage facility. There's trailers up there, and I think that it's something that with Old Home Day, and instead of cars being parked all along Chestnut Street or having to rely on the St. John's Gym parking lot, 150 spaces would fit many of the people that are coming here and keep the roads open and safe. So I agree 100% with you, and I'm not saying that what has been attempted in the past. I think that Oxford Court needs to step up and help address and combat.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I don't necessarily disagree with what you said, Matt. The only thing I would point out, though, is it's not only Oxford Courts. There are other sections of High Street where there's residential parking going on, and I hate to say this too, but in some instances, it's some of the employees of some of the businesses also occupy those spots, which is not the intended use of those spots either. So, and thirdly, I don't disagree with you with us having a conversation with Oxford Court, but like I don't really know what can they do. They tell their residents that they can't park there. Selectman Conley says they've already told them that, and the residents still park there. So I mean, I don't really know what recourse Oxford Court is going to have. I just personally think that the resolution to this problem is some type of enforcement, and it doesn't even have to be full time. It can be sporadic, it can be infrequent, but as long as the threat is there, you know, it could be something that happens 3 times a month or 4 times a month or once a week. It doesn't have to be a full-time resource that does this. Just the threat of it happening has to be realistic to the people that are thinking about parking there, that's all. And so I don't know if that means an actual officer that handles this issue, or if there's, I don't know if there's like resources that can be hired that can just come in on a contract basis or something like that to ticket people. I have no idea.
See, that's where I think we get into contract issues, you know, because we've talked about meter rates before, am I incorrect?
We're starting police negotiations, so it's something we can bring up to talk with them about. But it's police duties, so
Okay.
it's currently right now, so we would, at least at the beginning, have them do it and then talk with them about
Yeah, and
the
listen.
impact of taking those duties from them.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay.
Yes. Bottom line, if it costs people money, it gets their attention. Around the town hall here, it should be limited to 15 or half an hour tops, okay, right? Ticket the first time, second time, tow it, end of story. High Street, 1 or 2 hour limit. Ticket first time, second time, tow the car. Gonna cost them $125 a tow. They won't park there again.
And what Ed said, it doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be a meter maid or a full-time police officer
Once you
patrolling
get their
the street.
attention.
Just get their attention. 3 times, but it has to be it has to be continuous. Every month it has to be 2 or 3 times. And there has to be a commitment from the police department to do that. There needs to be a schedule. There needs to be an awareness that it's going to happen every single month of the year, and the problem disappears. Because I noticed a couple of times when they did the Oxford Court, it was wide open for a month or so. It wasn't packed or crowded, and it was available for residents to do business in town. So I think we could implement with the assistance of the enforcement right now, but it needs to be committed to and needs to be ongoing.
Not just have the police do the enforcement. Why would we entertain using meter maids or anything like that? Is there?
That's what he's saying, we're gonna use the police force.
No, I
We weren't getting the satisfaction we needed from officers. They didn't. If it was their argument that they weren't able to meet the standards that we was before, you know, COVID took them in other directions and the construction happened, they're committed to it. We just have to make sure that, you know, kind of like we're trying to enforce, we got to enforce the enforcers and make sure, you know, it's not, I don't think a lot of people sign up for the police force to hand out parking tickets, but it's what we need help with.
Yeah, I don't think the intent is never to like shove the idea of meter maids.
Oh, right.
You know, it was really, if the police don't feel that issue is a high priority enough, then we would work with the police to see if we could find out another resource that would be able to handle it. Yeah, it would really be up to whether the police felt it was, you know, where on the priority list that they felt it would fall.
And I don't want to run the police department, but I think it dovetails nicely into the back on the ball here and see what we can do. So, what would, taking enforcement first, would we like a representative from the department to come in to our next meeting? Okay. We don't need a motion for that. We'll just make a request. All right. Anything else on this?
Just on our next agenda, consideration of proposed parking ban
Yep.
on High Street, nighttime parking ban.
Thank you.
And I'd certainly like to hear from the police department and DPW or anyone else that felt we should know something about it, but I just think it's a simple thing. There should not be resident parking on High Street. And it would facilitate dealing with winter conditions.
Thank you. Next up, Town Administrator Evaluation Form. The Personnel Evaluation Subcommittee is recommending adoption of an evaluation form to review the work performance of the Town Administrator. Ed?
My intention tonight is, if everyone is comfortable with that, we've had 2 weeks to look at that proposal. If anyone has any, I haven't fielded any over email or phone call. No one has said that they wanted this change or that change or they had an issue with anything, so I'm going off the assumption that everyone is okay. They think that that evaluation form is adequate. So if that is the case, I would make a motion that we approve that evaluation form. But I'll hold off on making that motion just to make sure is everyone, not unofficially, is everyone okay with the contents of that evaluation form, or are there any concerns that you have, or any updates that you may wish to see in the form?
I've got two general concerns.
Okay.
One is there were some issues on there that were sort of minor, mundane. I don't have it here with me now, but there was some things that seemed a little bit not looking at the big picture.
Okay.
I don't have a big objection to them, but they seemed like they were just a little bit too minor in the evaluation form. But the other thing I would like to ask, and I know you want to adopt it, and you've worked hard on it, and I don't want to delay that process, but I would like to, if we're going to approve it tonight, approve it subject to review by, or a meeting of the subcommittee with the Human Resources Director that we just hired.
Okay.
I think her input on the document might be helpful, and I've got no major objections to it, but I would like to at least have your subcommittee meet with her and review, get her opinion on it.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll hold off on the motion. I'll get together with Human Resources, because there's no use in approving it
Yeah, I think it's
pending this, that, and that. So I'll get together with Selectman Conley, and I'll get offline, get specific, the line items that he's referring to. I'll adjust those, and I'll meet with me and maybe Mike. We can schedule a meeting for our municipal evaluation subcommittee and invite the new human resources director, and we can give her a copy ahead of time, have her take a look at it, and then we'll get her feedback. And then at the next selectmen's meeting, I'll bring it up for final approval.
And if anything else comes up as far as edits, just let Ed know. Good. Town meeting warrant review process. Matt?
So I had met with Mr. Ward and Mrs. Magliozzi to go over a process in having department heads do a continuous audit each fiscal year on any outstanding warrant articles. And Mr. Ward put together a form that he had passed out where this would be given out each year with the budgeting forms. In year one, Mr. Ward and Mrs. Magliozzi said that they would fill it out, so any existing warrant articles that are on there, and then going forward, each year would be up to the department head to keep this information themselves, and then establishing a process of closing out the warrant article after the purchase or project has been completed, and that was, is that anything you want to add, Mike?
Yeah,
Mr. Ward?
no, thank you. If it's small, a very small balance that we know can't be used for anything else, the accountant will work with the department head and ask them to close out, and she'll close it out with the help of, by checking with our auditor, and then we try to get that off the books. But if there's 5 or 6 or 7,000 out of a $200,000 article, it's still a lot of money that she feels, really should be reviewed by someone else other than just her. So by having that standard article, then anything that's definitely done can be put on the town meeting, can be closed out. She can take it off of her books, whether it's a borrowing authorization or unspent balance, and that way the authorization can go away, and then the money that's left over can either just close out to the general fund, or if, ahead of time, you could repurpose it to another use, or it could just close out to surplus for free cash. So I think it was a good idea to come up with, to A, get each department looking at these so they all know where they're at, and then B, take it to the next level by closing them and getting off the book, so the accountant doesn't have page after page after page of all these old warrant articles that have little balances that won't be used. So that way it can clean that all up. So we had a good meeting. We kind of came up with this proposed form as something to start with. And as Mr. Kobus said, we'll working with the accountant, we'll put everyone's on now in case they forget if there are some old ones. Because Mr. Kobus did do, I think, 5 years, but I think there may be even some beyond that. So we'll just put everything on there, so the Selectmen and Finance Committee will see it, and you'll know about it, and then you can ask these departments which ones can close out, and then when we do the warrant, a couple months later, we'll put those on the warrant and clean it all up. So I think it was a good practice to go through, and I think it'll start now an annual process that we can keep on top of these. So.
Perfect. Anything else? Thanks for doing this. Savage Field Lighting Project. Invitation for bids for the Savage Field Lighting Project has been submitted to the Central Register, Combis, and the item with the bid deadline of December 4th.
Right. Just wanted to give an update, Mr. Chair, as the board talked about this last meeting, so I did put it out to bid, and it was published today in the Central Register. Generally, you don't get much response from the local advertisement, but it's a requirement that we put something in the local paper. We ended up rerunning it this week again because the date was wrong on it. That was brought to my attention. So in 2 weeks, we'll have the bid opening in 2 weeks and see what proposals we get and what we can set up for a schedule based on the weather about moving this project forward. So.
Any questions from the board?
Good. Thank you.
Sure. Tax title property auction. Town treasurer held an auction on November 13th to dispose of surplus tax title property. Mr. Busno, do you have any update on this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Zekas Group, we had this auction on November the 13th. We had it in Central Park. The Zekas Group did an excellent job. They had everybody spaced out even for the requirement where they were signing up for the auction and stuff like that. They had everybody 6 feet apart. Everybody over there had a mask while they're closing it, and they were all 6 feet apart. Approximately, we raised about $404,500, and hopefully within 30 days, it should be in the kitty. So we're just waiting, for the paperwork and stuff like that. But everything's sold, which is good.
All right. Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank Selectman Busno for his efforts in making, I know a lot of other people were involved in making this happen, but this was something he had an interest in when he came on the board, and good things take time, Mr. Busno, but you got it done, and I want to thank you, and you have my appreciation for the work that you did to get that done.
And you had to add, right, I spoke with Mr. Kittredge, okay, right? This culvert is held up. There's several properties that were owed large amounts of money, okay, right? We've been tied up because of the courts, because of the culvert, right? Now that the courts are opening back up again, I'm hoping as early as maybe the spring, if not by the summertime, we'll be able to have another auction with some other actually valuable property.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you indeed. We have a couple personnel issues. Director of Facilities and Grounds has submitted his resignation for an opportunity in another community. He has offered to be available part-time through the month of December to assist with the transition. The vacancy has been advertised, and the search committee will begin review of applications in early December. I guess the question is how we would like to proceed in the interim. I know informally there's been some suggestions, and I know Mr. Ward and Dr. Meyer have discussed it, since this is a position that is directly under them. So do you want to go first,
Yeah,
Michael?
so I think if, the board discussed at the last meeting about maybe looking at some consultant companies. So we had 3 names that I contact there. It's not a primary business that they do, but it's something they want to be helpful and they want to try to provide for the town. So I think we can work with a consulting company to bring someone in, or Mr. Carlstead had offered to stay on for a part-time, 1 day a week to oversee things. I think in meeting with the superintendent of schools this week, I think there was at least some value that we felt in kind of getting some deliverables from Mr. Carlstead as to what the operations of the department are currently taking place. So whether it was, what was the status of projects, his budget status, what budget numbers that he would be kind of minimum budget looking for next year, and trying to at least get some of that information before he leaves next week. So thought that there might be some value in keeping him on through December to bring up a list of deliverables and ask that he work with us on those before he separates completely. So, but in order with the holidays coming, we have resumes in already, and probably by like the chair indicated, early December, we could start reviewing those. But realistically, with the holidays and appointing someone and then giving notice, we're probably looking to late January anyways to get somebody on board. So if there's a period of time that Mr. Carlstead's here, but then a period of time that we need some consultant help come in, we can maybe do a hybrid model with that. So I don't know if anyone else has any other thoughts, any of the board members had any other thoughts on how to proceed.
Mr. Chair, yeah, I think that would be, in my opinion, the ideal scenario, is if we were able to hire a consultant for the month of December, possibly, whatever or 1 month, 2 months, whatever we decide to do. But if we have that consultant, even if it's at a part-time basis, 20 hours a week, and also have Russ still at his job for 1 day per week through the month of December, I think that is a perfect transition where that temporary facilities management resource will get a chance to work with Russ, find out what projects he was working at, get detailed information from him, and then when we do hire a permanent replacement in the middle of January, wherever we do, that person will be able to, the consultant can stay on for another couple of weeks, work with the new person to kind of transfer that knowledge of what he was able to pick up in December from Russ, give him some more recommendations. And I think I agree with the proposal that Mr. Ward shared. I think that would be a perfect scenario if we could have the consultant working with Russ for the month of December.
How are we, so are these, I'm not familiar with this. Are these like project managers, or do we have someone who comes in and does day-to-day stuff, or are these consultants who like clerks of the work, or I mean, have you found any?
The companies?
Yeah, have we had any luck finding somebody? Because we don't need anybody to do Savage Field right now. Like, we just need someone to make sure snow is removed and day-to-day stuff, right?
Right, and I don't want to speak for Dr. Meyer, but I just know that with the COVID
Yep.
and the
He's in
building,
office, yeah.
I know that there's a bunch of things that Russ was busy on in that aspect. So I think even if it's a temporary resource, I think we would still need like somebody here for X amount of hours per week.
I'm all in favor of that. I want to make sure we're just hiring the right person and that they're bringing a skill set that's actually going to give us some value. So.
The burden of that, Mr. Chairman, if I may, it would be Mike's burden and responsibility. We'd authorize him to retain a resource, but his job is to make sure he's getting what we need.
Okay.
Because absent the facility director, by default, it's Michael's job.
Yeah, we don't need that.
So I think it would behoove him to find somebody quick. I wouldn't wait till Russ's 1 day a week thing expires to bring someone in. I think three things need to happen. One is accept Mr. Carlsted's offer to come in 1 day a week, and two, to expedite the process of finding a consultant or some kind of professional support to help manage that department during the transition, and to expedite the hiring process, not necessarily rush through and not fully vet candidates, but not take the traditional duration of time to get someone on board, to actually approach it with, we need it now, because you don't have the time to be running that department. And that's where all questions, all concerns, all problems will land on your desk.
Right.
So I think
As
those
soon as possible.
three things need to happen immediately. And another resource to inquire with is, I know I mentioned it to you before, there is a statewide facility managers organization. I don't recall the exact name of it, but maybe as in the case of town managers and those types of things, there might be some retired guys available that would come in part-time that are familiar with the issues and could help assist too. That's another, one doesn't rule the other out. It's another
Right,
possibility to look into.
Sure, yeah, I could reach out to them. I did send the job posting to that organization, but I didn't think about calling them. I had 3 names of companies that do facility management. I mean, a big part of what they do is they do facility management studies, so they'll come in and review your operations and give you recommendations, or they'll do, like one of the companies said they do for a lot of towns, they'll do their capital projects management, so they'll kind of be the clerk of the works for their projects and kind of handle those. They don't primarily do where they put staff in place, but they said they're willing to try to help us on that. So these companies are trying to find the right fit in their organization that could help us. And I did say we don't need someone full-time, like, 40 hours a week, but somebody that would be part-time, but like so I think as Ms. Kerrigan indicated, their expertise is in this project management, so they're trying to match up a staff person with us that would have the actual manager, operational, like a daily manager of a department, which is different kind of skills than running a construction project than managing personnel and dealing with complaints and daily fixes. So they've been very cordial, very helpful. They said they would love to, try to work with us to, help with their, their name of their company. They would love to be out there as to showing that they helped out a municipality. So they've been very good to work with, the 3 companies that I talked with. So I'll try to see what we can find there. And certainly I'll reach out to the MFAA, which is the Mass Facilities Administrators Association, that they have a group of all their municipal facility directors.
Maybe or may not be, but I think it's an opportunity to be checked, because their organization is made up of people that do this specific job.
That's a good idea.
Good, thank you.
Anything else?
So if everyone's good with that plan, then, like I said, I've been meeting this week with Dr. Meyer, and we can certainly continue down that road with the direction of the board.
Great.
Good, thank you.
Another personnel news. After almost 43 years on the force and 35 as chief, Mark Lavager has submitted his notice of retirement effective January 5th, 2021. It's not totally unexpected, but still a bit shocking to some of us who've only known him as a chief. Mike, do you want to update us on where we go from here?
Sure, just what the process would be, and I thank Chief Levenger, and he's been a great resource and friend and mentor to help me through all these years. He's done a great job in his career. But through this retirement, he is available and willing to stay on, which will be very helpful. So he will have to officially retire from the town, but then he can come back with so many hours. He'll be limited in what he could work, but he could come back a week in order to help us out and maintain the transition. But the police chief position in Clinton is civil service, so we have to still go through that state process. They don't offer any additional, anymore, they don't offer written exams for police chief anymore. So what communities are doing are this sole assessment center. So there are companies that are approved companies by the HRD, Human Resources Department of the state. If you can pick one of those companies, they'll come in, they set up a panel, they run all the candidates through scenarios and written assignments and come up with judge them on different police administration tactics. And at that point, they then this panel develops a score. We don't get to see any of that information. That goes to Boston, to the HRD, and then they will send back to us a ranking list based on that evaluation of 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on how many candidates are out there. We then we could do personal interviews beyond that, but mostly you then are obligated to follow that list. So if you don't choose the number one person, there would have to be compelling reasons and distinguishing bypass, because then the top candidate would have the ability to appeal. So if they appeal, it goes back to the Civil Service Board for appeal, and then we would have to go in and state our case. So it's like a normal civil service hiring, but it's just that there's no exam, so we have to do this assessment center. So we've already requested the assessment center. It's through an agreement with the town and the HRD, so we've already put that request in. And it's just a matter at this point that the chief made his final decision there just last week when he brought me his letter. So now we just need to pick one of these companies, one of these consulting companies, and then set some dates for when they would come in and start the assessment center process.
Chief, have any suggestions?
In terms of
Which company?
other companies, he does, he would have some recommendations. We have done this before with some of the promotionals. So on the promotionals, they still do the written exam, but what a lot of towns are doing now is the written is just kind of a book test. This company, when these companies come in and do the assessment center, they do a lot of scenario planning and specific to the position that you're going for.
For an evaluation.
So for our promotional, for lieutenant and sergeants, we've been doing half and half. We've been doing the written exam and the assessment center. So there is a company that we've used in the past that the police chief has been very satisfied with, and the process went very smoothly, and they're well respected with HRD. So I think that's a company we probably recommend that we go with this time as well.
And what do we need? Do we need to do anything here, or is this something you decide?
Yeah, well, I think we need to finalize the agreement with the state, and once we get that agreement in, we can get some proposals, and then I can circle back to the board and let the board know where we're at that point. So I signed the agreement, and we're waiting for the state to approve that, to come back to us, and then once we get that approval, then we can move forward with, we'd have to advertise to the department and give them so much time for them to sign up. We're looking to do a promotional, so it would just be lieutenant and sergeants that would be eligible, not patrolmen, and then they would have so much time in order to sign up with the state to say they're interested, and then once we have the list of names, then we bring contract with this company, and then they'll just take it from there. It's all process that they handle. We're not really involved in that until we get the list back from the state.
Do we have any idea how long this typically takes?
Sorry.
How long does this typically take? Timeline?
For which
To get a new chief?
Haven't done it in 32 years.
Right, I was just curious, like, if we had any kind of expectations, like,
Yeah, the whole process, or just like the assessment center would be more like a day.
Yep.
If they're, depending on number of candidates, how many they could get in the day. So that would take a day. So I think it's just a matter of, I would say, probably, just by Thanksgiving or after, we would have the agreement back. So at that point, I think they usually, once we advertise the exam, I think they have maybe 10 days to sign up. And then, once we get the official list of who's eligible to be reviewed, then this company will just set dates based on their schedule, and they'll come in, and I think they can do it all in a day or two. I think they might come in, do an orientation for a day, and then like the following week, come back and do the assessment. So, I would say, just based on what we did on some of the other positions, I'd say no more than 2 months. It's just a matter of scheduling, this group or that group, and getting dates where people are all, because then they have a panel, so they have to coordinate with all their people for dates. So it's more just getting people on the same page. It's not just getting a lot of people on the right date. And with the holidays coming, it might be just a scheduling issue. But I would say, if the chief is going to be here through January, we should be pretty well on the path to having some recommendations at that point.
any other questions from the board? Any other old and new business?
I just have one thing I want to bring up is just the status on the winterization of the parks and the structures on the parks. I know the irrigation was still on, and I had spoke to someone from Warren Plumbing, and they had said that they hadn't been contacted yet about winterizing the shack.
Yeah, I don't know. I did speak with the facilities director, and I guess that's been ongoing this week. I don't know which contractor does what facility, but I know there was a contractor that had been involved that was doing some of the facilities. I think they were trying to do Ash Street today, but they didn't have access to the water meter, the water system. So I guess they're coming back tomorrow. So I think that's in process, but I just did an email with the facility director, so I didn't get to see him in person. So I don't know every facility at this point, which ones are done or which ones are still outstanding. But I know they do have a contractor that was going around town this week to do some of that work.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
On that same topic, I just would like to make sure where Russ is leaving, that all the issues are taken care of. The fountain in Central Park, I think over the years, a couple of times it wasn't closed properly, and that contributed to problems in the spring. For the Fuller Field House, we were just talking about that a little bit earlier, and the irrigation system at Fuller Field. I just want some confirmation from Russ that before he leaves, if anything isn't done, make us aware of it so we can make sure it does get done.
Yeah, I know he had indicated that, based on it was a good growing season this fall, I guess, so he tried to extend the growing season and keep the watering going to enhance the turf. But apparently they're in the process of doing that now. So I'll make sure I get him to give me a list of what's done and not done at this point. So.
Anything else? Committee reports.
Mr. Chairman, Matt and I met with the newly fully formed Fuller Field Commission and Parks and Recreation Commission earlier this evening. My opinion, the meeting went very well, except for one little hiccup. But Matt did it. The point of the meeting was more to help guide the transition, make people aware of the ongoing plans for Fuller Field, and I think he communicated a lot of that information to them. It's my hope that we will attend every one of their meetings up to or until the transition's completed. there is a concern with Russ leaving, the continuity of the facility department and all the ball fields and parks, not just Fuller Field. We were there for Fuller Field, but however we handled that transition with a consultant or a part-time person or just Russ's hours, I want to make sure that those things don't get lost in that whole transition. The one issue we did have was one of the members was inquiring about bringing employees in from the facility department to hear concerns and address concerns, and I made it crystal clear that anything like that has to go through the department head. If there is no facility director, it has to go through Mike, and no employees are going to be summoned in for an interrogatory or that type of thing. The department head, whoever that person may be at the time, is the contact person for concerns or issues with the ongoing facilities of the Parks and Rec or Fuller Field Commission.
Nope, echo everything. Great, thank you for doing that. Cable, we will be interviewing candidates for the cable director tomorrow night, Friday, and Monday. So hopefully we'll make some progress there. Do you have anything to add on that, Ed?
Just a question more for you and Mike. I know everyone that's available is going to join on in Zoom, but who is who will absolutely, no question, be running those interviews? Obviously you, Mike, but is Chris planning on being there for all of them?
Yeah, Chris DeSicis was going to be involved, and
Okay.
myself and the new HR manager said that she would go on to the call as well too.
Perfect, okay.
And then we just, left it open to the committee members if they felt they wanted to pop in to meet the candidates or to listen. You're welcome to do that. So.
Great.
Okay. Yep, I will be. Thank you.
Any other committee reports? Anything else at all? I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Second. Just kidding.
I'll accept a motion to adjourn. That's going to get this sooner or later.
I make a motion to
Motion
adjourn.
to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Under discussion, we're having a special meeting next Tuesday?
Tuesday at
7 o'clock, okay, to talk about this special town meeting. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, good night.